Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event.
Oh, yeah!
Are you ready?
And now, coming live from Wrestling-News.net and presented by Spreaker, it's Main Event Madness. Madness Unleashed.
You could ever know. Make my wish come true.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Main Event Madness Holiday episode, holiday special, if you will. We hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. I'm here. I got our usual tandem with me, Mr. Eron Ramadanov and Marc Madison, in no particular order. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Doing great.
Awesome.
And a happy Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays to you two gentlemen.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, it's incredible that it's already December. 2015 is like zoomed by. I just can't believe it's going to be 2016 in a matter of weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It feels like just this time last year that you and I were talking wrestling's rope break and Main Event Madness, and here we are a year later.
It's crazy.
One of the faces has changed, but you know what? The game stayed the same. Marc, how we doing, man? Merry Christmas or Happy Holiday to you, sir.
Oh, Merry Christmas on my end, and same to you guys. Everything is good. Thank goodness done all the holiday shopping for now. Not anticipating having to run out at all on the 23rd or 24th. So that's good. That's a good thing.
It's always a plus. I got most of my Christmas shopping done yesterday. Got to the town where my work was a little bit early, so I had a little bit of time to get some gift cards ready. I know that's kind of taking the easy way out, but sometimes the holidays are about the easy way.
Yeah, when in doubt, go with gift cards.
This is true.
Safer sometimes.
Yeah. That is absolutely correct. So I got one more person to shop for, and then I'll be good to go. Nothing quite to the extent of what Marc's got to go through, or even you have to go through, Eron. I don't know how big your family is.
I've got a good-sized family. One brother, one sister. They have spouses, and they have kids, so it's kind of a decent-sized family. I got my Christmas shopping way done, way in advance. I kind of build it up, so throughout the year I'll kind of grab things here and there and put them aside, and then at the end of the year I'll have a good amount for everybody.
There you go.
I think that would ideally be the smart thing to do, and then you become a parent, and then you put that stuff aside and you forget that you put it aside. So want to package it together, man, I know I got him that Roman Reigns style. Where the hell is it? I know, some people might be grateful that I kind of went missing, but depending on who hears this. But, that's the challenge in it. It's just remembering where everything was when the time comes to put everything together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about you, John?
What's up?
How about you? Just the gift cards, or? Yeah,
I got my dad, my stepmom. I have two aunts. My mother, and my sister and my grandmother. So not terribly big, but decent enough. This is the first time, tentatively, I'm off from work for Christmas. This is the first time I'll be home on Christmas for, I think, 2008 was the last time I was off on Christmas.
Oh,
I wasn't working back then, so it's going to be, they're trying to tell me that I'm on call, but that's not going very well. So, not very well for them, I should say. So, too bad, so sad for them. Christmas comes once a year, and as life goes on, it gives you a newfound appreciation for a few things. My dad and grandmother are both cancer survivors, so as much as I'd like the time and a half, money's not everything.
Mm-hmm.
Damn right.
and I'd rather sit home and BS with them than go to work and get paid money that the state and the government are just going to take from me anyway.
There you go.
But on a lighter note, I hope everybody out there will have a tremendous and fantastic Christmas. Taping this a few days in advance, but that's okay. Football Sunday. Gentlemen, are you guys football fans?
I mean, for the most part. I mean, I've kind of fallen out of love with sports in general for the last couple of years. It's slowly becoming less and less part of my life, which I never thought would happen. But yeah, I still follow my team, the Patriots, and big win today. So,
no.
John, and you wanted to be the heel. Making that statement on this show, it ends up becoming.
He's saved by his baseball team.
I will take the heel role with pleasure.
Yeah.
Eron
is saved by his baseball team.
Yeah. My family's been Yankee fans since my grandfather, so you know. So.
But Mark, how about you? Football fan?
Not really. No, I'm more leaning towards hockey. I know I follow the stereotype being Canadian, but yeah, I generally follow hockey a lot. And kind of the whole city kind of rekindled with the passion of the Blue Jays after this year, so it's kind of hard not to be interested as to what the coming year is going to have. Yeah. But yeah, unfortunately not football, not Canadian, not American. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. Just, my Jets had a good win yesterday. You know, they should have beat the Cowboys more than they did, but hey, a win's a win. 9-5 for the first time in 5 years, so I can't complain too much. And, where was I going to go with that? Oh, you know, you're talking about baseball up in Toronto. Guys, yes, this is a wrestling podcast, and we do have a few news topics we are going to get here in a little bit. But you know what? It's the holidays. It's Christmas time. We're sitting here, three guys. This is how, you know, when Al and I envisioned doing this a couple of years ago, how we envisioned it was basically, and this isn't going to be a priest and a rabbi joke, but basically what happens if two guys want to go into the bar and bullshit about, yes, I'll be the first one to swear today. Obviously, you know, already did, so I can't control it now. But two guys go into a bar and shoot the breeze about, at the time, wrestling or sports, either one, and just a regular conversation. So basically that's what it's going to be today. And next week, we got our end of the year awards, which some of the results that came in were, or not the results, but some of the choices that came in were pretty good. I was, I said to these guys off air, there was a few that were shoo-ins. You know, everybody was unanimous selections. A couple of them were close, and I got all of those queued up, and you guys will hear that next week right here on Main Event Madness. So you guys are definitely going to want to check back with that. And we're going to have an encore next week also with Chris Mordetsky of Global Force Wrestling and former Chris Masters of WWE. So that was a very, very awesome interview. And thank you. I want to take this time now actually to say thank you to all of the people that have taken time out of their lives and their busy schedules to appear on our show and to hang out with us for a little bit, and for us to be able to peel back the curtain a little bit and get to know them, you know, from Bruce Hart to Chris Mordetsky, Jeff Jarrett, Brodus Clay. I'm forgetting a lot of them, you know, off the top of my head. Lance Hoyt, you know, all of them out there, and I promise next week I'll have a better recollection of that. But thank you to all the guests that we've had this year. Once again, though, for taking the time out. Really appreciate it. It's an awesome thing when you're a wrestling fan and you're able to talk, no matter how big or how small of a star the talent is, to be able to talk with a wrestler and talk about their careers and talk about the sport that we all love. And thank you to all of you who have come out each and every week and made us a part of your week and took time out of your day to listen to what we have to say. So thank you to all of you as well. You know, we're up to like 250,000 listens almost in the last couple of years, and I'm doing my best, and Marc is trying to help me. We want to get somebody big. Our 2-year anniversary is coming up in about 2 months from now, and to think that we're going on 2 years doing this is just... is kind of mind-boggling to me, especially how many times it's been start, stop, start, stop. And I know, Eron, we're only a couple weeks into this official journey, but, you know, we're starting it really in a couple weeks again in earnest. And, Marc, thank you to you guys for taking time away from your families, your jobs, your school, you know, whatever you guys are doing to come hang out with me and, you know, to help me see... or at least try to see through my goal to make Main Event Madness, you know, a part of people's lives, and, you know, make it a show that more people would want to listen to, and just maybe one day the top wrestling podcast out there on the internet. You know, that's a very bold statement, you know, with a lot of them out there, but I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to come hang out with me and do the show with me. I really appreciate it, guys.
Not a problem. I mean, the idea of us all trying to work to make Main Event Madness special, not just to everything that you've worked towards, but I think Darren and I will give you our utmost, our best, and we're going to try and do everything we can to bring it to another level too. So you thanked all the guests that you've had on this year, and I want to think about the guests that are still to come, and a lot of conversation, a lot of talk that both you and I had off air, make Eron privy to it as well, about the things that we hope to have happen. It's just once we get some of the technical glitches kind of ironed out, we'll hopefully have it kind of almost like second nature and ready to go and move ahead. So I'm excited for 2016. What you, Eron?
Yeah, I mean, I'm you know, like you said, John, I've only been a part of this new thing here for a couple of weeks, but, you know, 2016 looks to be bright for both Main Event Madness and PWP Nation. So, and of course the partnership coming up with both our groups here as well. So, I'm excited for 2016 as well. It should be a great year.
Absolutely, guys. And, you know, I mentioned it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Main Event Madness. You guys should go give it a like. There's a DX kind of shill there. You know, I won't beat around the bush. 2015's definitely been an up and down year. It's been a very cavernous year. A lot of highs, a lot of lows. Both for myself, for my former host Al Merriman, even Eron, you and I, and your former host or co-host Joel O'Brien. You know, we had our ups and we had our downs this year. And that's the funny thing about life. You know, we had, and if you can remember back, you know, going back to, God, a year ago, which is crazy to think about how quick that went, we had a completely different vision for where we would be this year. But, you know, I think the biggest thing about the ups and downs is that you learn from them. You learn what mistakes not to make, and I'm not calling anybody in particular mistakes. You know, I don't want to come across like that, but you learn from it, and if anything, I'm more motivated than ever. You know, maybe one day Joel will be on here. You know, he's been talking maybe about, and I know you know this better than I do, about possibly getting back into the world of podcasting, so maybe we'll see him around again. And Al's got some stuff working out for him, finally going in his favor. And who knows, maybe sometime down the road he'll pop up again, and we can expand out into a bigger, stronger Main Event Madness family than we are now. But you know, I'm not going to go on and make some bold prediction like I did this time last year, where I think Main Event Madness will be a year from now. As long as I can go and still be doing this a year from now, that's all I care about.
And the main goal, I think, is also just have fun. I mean, I come on here to talk wrestling with people that know just as much, even more than I do, and it's just a good time. So hopefully we have some better times in 2016, some fun moments, and we'll see what happens.
Definitely, for sure, man. And I know Marc is working effortlessly. because that word wanted to come out right, effortlessly to get the best people possible onto the show. So I appreciate that, Mark, and I hope, like you said, once we get some stuff hammered out, we could talk about it more a little bit. But I'm excited. Bottom line, bar none, I'm excited for what 2016 could bring and what it will bring. And I know we got a very good team here, and like you said, Eron, we have a very strong. You guys have a very strong team over at PWP Nation. I'm very excited to see what the two of us combined can bring together, and see what kind of excitement, what kind of fun we can make, and what kind of magic we can make happen. I guess if you want to be corny, cliche a little bit there, and see, just see what happens. I think the sky's the limit for guys like us or people like us, depending on I don't know who exactly you guys have over there, but for people that are motivated and have ambition to do this, only good things can happen from that.
Yep, absolutely.
But all right, guys. So even though this is a holiday show, there's still things that need to be promoted. So we're going to take a commercial break here. And when we come back, we got a few news topics to get into, and we're going to sprinkle in a little bit more BS in here because, it's the holidays. And it's Main Event Madness, and we never go by the script anyway, not to say there is one. And, yeah.
I'm spiking the eggnog right now.
Huh?
I'm spiking the eggnog right now.
But, yep, this is Main Event Madness, guys, our holiday special. We thank you for taking the time out of the cream of the crop of the holiday season, to come hang out with us and hear what we have to say. But we will be back. We got a bunch of stuff to come here. Main Event Madness Radio. Madness is unleashed, just like these commercials are now unleashed. From the associate producer of The Wrestler, and in the tradition of Joe Franklin and Ed Sullivan variety talk shows, Evan Ginsberg's Legends TV features an eclectic mix of legendary million-selling musicians, indie artists deserving greater exposure, and colorful pro wrestlers. Co-hosted by Steve Ludwig of Classic Pop Culture Radio, the show airs live every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern at MadhouseTV.com and LegendsTVNYC.com. Martha Wash, Crown Heights Affair, Lanny Poffo, Nicole Bass, and other legends have joined us. You missed the birth of your mother and father. Don't you dare miss Evan Ginsberg's Legends TV. So you decided to check out Main Event Madness, and now you want to know how you can get the latest news about the show, the hosts, guests, showtimes, and more? Well, the answer's simple. Facebook. Head over to facebook.com/maineventmadness and be a part of the hundreds who have already liked the page and are the first to know everything you could ask about Main Event Madness. Facebook.com/maineventmadness, the official Facebook page for Main Event Madness Radio. Life's about working. Life's about progress. Why not put them together? Well, we did. Working Progress is here, the Fans View podcast. Matt Brees and Mike Rooker take the latest news and rumors in the world of pro wrestling and add in some NFL and more, and add a fantasy spin to it, and you get Working Progress every month, only on MEMnetwork.wix.com/home. Alright guys, we are back. Main Event Madness, Holiday Madness if you will, our holiday edition of the broadcast. Hope you guys are having a very nice Christmas season, holiday season. We thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday night to come hang out with us and just shoot the breeze with us and hear what we've got to say going into the meat and potatoes of this holiday season. And, I gotta get something off my chest. I've got to get something off my chest. So last week here on the broadcast, we were a couple hours removed from being a post-game show, basically, for NXT TakeOver London, which I think was a pretty good show. Eron, have you seen it yet?
I have. Yeah, I mean, good show. Not the best NXT
Not the best
takeover, but good.
It was a good show.
Yeah.
So, if you guys remember last week, we were going to discuss it at the top of the broadcast.
Looks like Marc's about to get thrown under the bus right now.
Yes, he is.
I had it coming. So.
You did have it coming.
Okay.
So then Marc begs me and begs Eron not to talk about it because he wants to go home or not go home, but go and watch it after the show. No problem. Doesn't this mother trucker tell us during the commercial break, yeah, I still haven't watched NXT yet?
I tried, and to that promise, I tried to not go on social media, but I'm thinking by the Friday, nothing, I wouldn't see anything pop up. But then, like, Fallout, can you believe that this happened, and Balor went over, and the match was, and then Baron Corbin did this, and like, how am I going to be honest with John and say, yeah, it was great. When the taping of the show comes up, I would just be flubbing my way through if you guys talked about it again. So I had it coming.
You'd be like me last year when Joel and Eron were asking me about Wrestle Kingdom 9. I'm like, oh yeah, good show. Yeah, great show. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what happened on it? Beats the hell out of me.
Okay, well.
See, you're not the only one. They didn't throw me under the bus like I threw you.
We see where the loyalties lie now.
But
no, I just
coming up January 4th, so
yeah,
kind of
it's gonna
looking
be a
forward
great
to that.
show.
Yeah. Did either of you end up watching Final Battle on Friday? I can't say I watched that.
I did not watch Final Battle. No, I have a tough time buying paper. Like, I've gotten so accustomed with the WWE Network now, where like pay-per-views are $9.99, and I don't even have to pay for them. I just, it's obviously like it's just a monthly thing. But now going out of my way to have to pay for a pay-per-view, it just doesn't work for me anymore. I don't know why. I just can't get myself to do it. So I'm probably just going to watch it this week on like a streaming site or something. I don't know.
Even the IPPV would end up being cheaper, I think, than the regular pay-per-view fee. But the show itself was quite good.
Yeah.
Let's listen.
I won't spoil anything, but it was. If you already read what's happened, it's quite good. A couple matches stood out. So.
Hey, Marc. So you're not going to spoil anything, and are you still hands-free?
Yeah, I'm still hands-free.
Shoot me a text on Facebook. Tell me who won the main event.
Okay.
If you're not spoiling anything. Okay. But listen, Eron, it's still a better value than a TNA pay-per-view. Because a TNA pay-per-view...
They pay-per-views anymore, do they?
The last one they had was like $35, $40. I remember seeing that. I'm just like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
But, well, it is what it is. Now, stupid question. The Wrestle Kingdom pay-per-views, they're on, like, actual pay-per-view, right? They're not like an iPay-per-view or anything like that?
Well, last year it was produced by GFW. They were the ones that brought it to American pay-per-view.
Okay.
I don't know if they're going to be doing the same, Marc. I don't know if you know that or not.
Which one?
I don't know if GFW is going to be doing Wrestle Kingdom 10 again.
Oh, that I wouldn't know. Although it sounded like when I spoke to Jared a couple weeks ago, it sounded like there's some sort of arrangement coming in. They're still talking about it. So, John, I guess you're not in favor of my answer, right?
No. I just know I would love to hear Jim Ross and Matt Striker call the show again. I thought they were great last year, or this year.
And Matt himself was like really pleased because the way they approached it was for any of the novice fans that aren't really familiar with a lot of the New Japan wrestlers. It was more like an introduction to everything. And I think every year, because it's an annual event, you need an introduction because if you're trying to really promote that event, and unless you're kind of in the know, you know that the event's actually happening January 4th, so it's a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know any publicity leading up to it. So unless pay-per-view outlets have been promoting it through other streams or other forms, I wouldn't almost know about it. So
Yeah.
I looked it up. There's nothing on here right now that says anything about GFW. It says
okay.
the event will air live on New Japan Pro Wrestling World and will feature English commentary from Kevin Kelly, Matt Stryker, and Yoshitatsu.
So
Is
Ring
it?
of Honor's aligned, but no Jim Ross. Bet.
Sorry.
Yoshitatsu.
I did.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, not exactly the first name that would jump out at me, but, hey.
Well, I think Matt Stryker and Kevin Kelly are going to do a good job. Kevin Kelly's really good. Matt Stryker's really good, and I haven't heard Yoshitatsu commentate, but I think that the ability of Matt and Kevin they'll be able to put together a good commentary. I think this past year, with Jim Ross and Matt Stryker, I found it really interesting that they almost kind of switched roles, where Matt was calling a lot of the action, and then Jim was kind of just throwing in his little bits and pieces of knowledge that he knows about just kind of basic psychology and in-ring work and stuff like that. But Matt is a big guy of New Japan. He follows that product really closely, so he's really knowledgeable and knows what he's talking about, which I really enjoy his commentary.
Now, we got New Japan on TV here, right?
New Japan airs on Access TV, where it's like an hour program of highlighting a few matches in the past year. It's not really like a weekly program. But it's a good show. I DVR it, and I always find some really cool gems on a weekly basis. But yeah, New Japan World is a must get. I think I'm probably going to just finally suck it up and get it myself. I tried to get it this year, but the translation on Google Chrome wasn't working, and it was really hard, and I had no idea how to sign up for it. So, but yeah, I've got to find a way to sign up for New Japan World because it's like a must-have.
Yeah. And they're going to be an active part of Ring of Honor's 14th anniversary, too. So it's not just as though they appear at Global Wars. After watching Final Battle, they were promoting New Japan being a part of 14th anniversary, which would be the next major pay-per-view that gets the outlets, the pay-per-view outlets in February. So that was a good show. The 13th anniversary was a good show. So
now,
you know what you get.
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mark. Is Wrestle Kingdom 9 on YouTube? Because I thought I saw it on there somewhere once.
I mean, I'm sure it is. Sure, if you go and look for it hard enough, you could probably find it, or find it on one site I really like, and I'm not a big fan of streaming, but if I have to do it, if I have to do it, I'm going to do it. Is I think it's watchwrestling.ch, and it has it has a really nice it's nice layout, everything's there, good quality. That's where if you really want to watch it, you probably should go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely got to get around to watching it. I got to start getting more into things besides just WWE.
That was great for the Lucha Underground. I mean, they were quick with their turnaround and getting stuff up there. And they got all the TNA stuff, and they broke down every WWE show. I'm not sure if it's still up there, but I would have liked to see the 60 documentary Behind the Curtain, which I heard was quite good.
Yeah.
Have you both seen it?
I have, yeah. It was real. I love that kind of stuff. I love the behind the scenes stuff. I could watch that stuff all day. That's why I'm a big fan of Breaking Ground and the WWE 24 stuff. But yeah, great. It was really, really well put together.
Really get to look at Adam Rose in a very different perspective. So I think anybody that didn't see him before, they get a whole different appreciation for him. If you haven't seen it, John, I would recommend it.
The Behind the Curtain. Oh, yes, I did see that. I'm sorry, I was checking out something for the show really quick, but yes, that is. I love, to Aaron's point, I love those behind the scenes, the backstage things when they peel the curtain back and you're able to see the superstars like you don't see them on a Raw or on a SmackDown. It's an awesome thing. I think that's why there's a lot of guilty pleasure watchers of Total Divas, because you get to see the Usos, Daniel Bryan, John Cena in a different light than you get to see them on a Raw, SmackDown, or WrestleMania or pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Some of the criticism, I don't want to be like cynical here, but when it comes to reality programming, is it like these Total Divas a false reality that's just there's a camera on them, but it's not, and it's heavily edited. I don't know how much of it is genuine. Like, was there legitimately something going on between Nikki Bella and Dolph Ziggler? I don't know about that truth or not, but that was something that had come about, and is that why John Cena was coming off air? And so everything seems to have been tied in behind a U.S. Championship match between Ziggler and Cena, and thought that Nikki Bella had something to do with it. So I don't know if they were trying to do crossover, if it was legit, if it was that stuff, not so much. But when you're looking at hardships and somebody trying to struggle to achieve something rather than being like the target audience being on the E! Network, where you're keeping up with the divas, like you're keeping up with the Kardashians, I tend to question it a little bit. I don't know, maybe I'm off. But.
Yeah.
To each their own. Like, I definitely get where you're coming from, and a lot of times WWE blurs the lines with that. Like, I hate the Total Divas show is like scripted, or not scripted, it's taped like 3 months in advance. So it's 4 or 5 months later, and we're just seeing the feud from 3 months ago just starting to play out on TV.
Yeah.
And it's like that's always been a gripe for me, is like, why can't we keep them separate? They're advertised as separate, their build is separate.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not build as separate, but I don't know. I would have preferred to see, just to keep them separate. One's reality and backstage, one's on screen wrestling. I don't know.
Well, with Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella, they don't hide the fact that every time that Brie does those kicks, there's mention that that she's doing what her husband does, right? But in the same show, they're not making any reference to a Nikki Bella John Cena relationship. So you make mention of it at one, and you don't make mention of it later on. And at times, there's almost no mention of Naomi and Jey Uso's relationship, and they're married too. So what is it that makes one so much more of a story that you want to build on than the other?
Mm-hmm.
Why? But like you, Eron, I really enjoyed Breaking Ground. I enjoyed Table of Three. Not missing those episodes. They kind of all stopped after November 11th. I keep going back and checking, like, they're going to put something up there, they're going to have something updated, but those are really good. Even though they're 20 minutes or 25 minutes, just three people just talking about their trails and how they got to where they are, and something as simple as that. But there's a market for that, and I think with the network trying to be as big as they are, they're trying to do a little bit for everybody. They really are trying to be everything to everybody with the network, which I guess probably why they have Total Divas on there too.
Yeah, and I mean, my biggest complaint, not to completely change the subject, my biggest complaint about the WWE Network is there's not as much of the older Raws and SmackDowns as I would like.
There will be. They're coming. When you think about WWE and how they've been releasing product on the network, they've been doing it slowly, and I think that's strictly business strategy. I mean, they don't want to give everything away, and then then there's really no incentive to keep. I mean, there is an incentive to keep subscribing, but I think the way they want you to do it is kind of release it in bits and pieces, and then they can keep releasing new stuff each and every month, year for years to come. So I'm trust me, I'm just like you. I would love if they posted some of the Raws from 2002 all the way up to now, and even the SmackDowns, and even before the Attitude Era and stuff. I'm going through, right now, for example, I'm going through the Attitude Era Raws one by one, I think I'm about 5 or 6 episodes into the Attitude Era section. I think I'm in like early 1999 or 1998, and there's so much content on there. So I think that like I said, I think they're just releasing stuff slowly to keep people around. I mean, I'm not really sure.
Eron, since you've been watching some of the Raws that are from the past, right, the more Attitude Era, how recent are the Raws that they're putting out now showing up on the network?
You mean like right now?
Yeah, like say this past Mondays, right?
Oh yeah, I think as of right now, I think they're like a month behind.
Yeah, it's a 4-week difference. That was per the contract with USA.
Oh, so that's why they lag posting those episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some kind of agreement that you're putting your shows on our network. That's fine. We want them on your network. You can have them on there 4 weeks behind.
Yeah. Like right now, the most recent Raw up there right now is November 16th. The Paige and Charlotte contract signing.
Now, does USA re-air the Monday edition? Because here in Canada, they re-air the edition.
The AM Raw?
Yeah.
Do they still do that?
I know they re-air Raws and SmackDowns on NBC Universal, that channel. I think Saturday nights they do them back to back.
Yeah, that's different than what Marc's talking about, because USA used to do one at like
midnight.
At like midnight or 1 in the morning, Saturday night into Sunday. It would be, they called it AM Raw, and it would be a 90-minute, or not a 90-minute, it'd be like an hour-long condensed version of it.
No, I can understand it as a business and contractually what they have to do. But as a fan, if you miss an edition of Raw and it's not available on the network that's hosting it, what means you have to go back and watch it? Do you have to go and stream it somewhere else? Because if I'm the WWE, I'd like to stream it on our network so you have access to it. But they have to do that a month later. I don't know, from a fan, I would think it'd be frustrating. When they watch NXT or you miss that edition on the Wednesday, you don't have to wait 4 weeks to go back and watch that. It never used to be straight to the network. It used to be on television, and then it went to the network. But it's available. You missed that episode 2 minutes there after it's aired. It's already hosted up under the NXT icon that's set up there. So.
It's like that with that. It's like that with
SmackDown, I'm sure too, right?
No, SmackDown is the same way.
Yeah. So.
As Raw and SmackDown, that it's up there 4 weeks later.
Yep.
But
that just makes it difficult. You have to depend on recap shows, and maybe watch main event to find out what happened. And I don't know. As a fan, I don't think you should have to do that.
I know a lot of people like Joel, for example. Joel hasn't watched a full Raw in I don't know how long. What he does is he usually goes on the YouTube channel and just watches the clips and kind of gets a good gist of what happened that way. So, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done that before when I've missed, even though I've got it DVR'd. There'll be some days I don't feel like having to go through 3 hours of BS only to find the one 5-minute segment that was actually worth watching this week. Whereas I can go to that, which for a little while there was some of those weeks.
Yeah.
And I go to the YouTube and pop up, oh, okay, there it is. But let's switch gears here a little bit, guys. Get into a couple news topics here. We're about, about 40 minutes into this shindig. We got about 20 minutes left of this edition of Main Event Madness. Kurt Angle, who's been in a lot of news lately, guys. Did he retire from TNA yet, or is he retiring from TNA?
Ooh.
Kurt Angle.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he's gone right now.
He is okay. I wasn't sure if he was gone already or if he wasn't, but he was asked about if he would take an NXT contract if that was offered to him. He politely, not so politely, said no. Do you think that's a mistake on his part?
Mark, you can go ahead if.
I don't think his career is any more tainted if he did, but I don't think that's really what fans had wanted. He should be the guy that Dudley Boys can walk right in. I can't see why Kurt Angle, who's multi-time champion, is known when his music hits. People know who's coming out, and it's not the Patriot. They know it's Kurt Angle. So I think it's better that it be the way. It's not on some terms. I mean, they were able to make allowances and have a part-time contract with Shawn Michaels. I can't see why it wouldn't be okay for Kurt Angle and everything he's done. And at the level that he's able to still compete at the age of 40. So, no, I can't see it being a bad thing. Aaron? John?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you. I think if, like you said, if Dudleys can just hop onto the main roster and get thrown into a tag team title match, I don't see why Angle can't be brought up as well. I mean, there was this. I remember a couple months ago there was talk of him coming in, and while his contract was up, and the whole thing was they wanted him to be on the road full time. If I'm not mistaken, I think they wanted him on the road full time, and he didn't want to do that. And Hunter wasn't, I think, a big fan of bringing him in right now, and there's a bunch of different things going on. But I think a lot of people took Angle's comments kind of out of context, and he kind of had to clear them up on Twitter a couple days after. But I think he called NXT the minor leagues of WWE, and I don't think he was disparaging the talent down there, but I think he was just explaining that he deserves to go onto the main roster. I mean, that's the guy is a multiple-time world champion, arguably maybe one of the 10 or 20 best of all time as far as in-ring technicians are concerned, or maybe some would even argue that he's one of the top 10 ever of all of any generation ever. So I don't know. I think Angle definitely deserves to come back to the main roster and be given at least one final kind of run going into WrestleMania or stick around as long as he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. A guy like Samoa Joe, I could see why, even though I said that I hoped he would bypass NXT and go to the main roster, I could see why they would put him on NXT. He's not really he hasn't had much success, no success really in WWE. He's never been there until he came in May. But a guy like Kurt Angle, who put together a Hall of Fame career in 7 years before he left, let alone what he did in TNA and New Japan and everything else he's done,
mm-hmm.
I think is more than deserving of coming back to the main roster where he belongs. And I really don't understand why the Shawn Michaels like contract, where you get to do basically whatever house shows you want to do, and none if you don't want to. I think that's what it was. Like, he got to pick and choose if he did any and what ones he did. Or either that or he was only scheduled for a couple. Otherwise, it was TV and pay-per-views only. Why, for a guy like Kurt Angle, Randy Orton, I think, got a little bit of heat for it from fans when when a lot of reports came out that he was going to start going down to a part-time, little bit of a part-time role. And John Cena's going to be getting there in the next year or two, if he's not already now.
Yeah.
2014 could very well have been the final full-time year of John Cena. We don't know that yet. Because he's been gone. You can't say 2015. He was gone for a good portion of it, good couple months. But I don't know. I definitely think I'd like to see Kurt Angle back in WWE again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny because not to completely change the subject, but if you remember, WrestleMania 27 was kind of the the Attitude Era reunion WrestleMania. Could WrestleMania 33 possibly be the Ruthless Aggression Era reunion? Randy Orton will be back. Jeff Hardy could be back. Kurt Angle could be back. Maybe Edge comes back in some kind of role. Who knows? Maybe even CM Punk could be back. We don't know. Could this be, a Ruthless Aggression Era reunion? Rey Mysterio could be back if his knee can get put together with things better than Legos.
I think that's a lot of ifs, and I think if a lot of things would kind of have to fall into place for something like that to happen, and if I don't know if WWE would even want to do that, if they would want to bring that many guys back and kind of be thrown into the main roster and kind of take up spots for other guys that they're trying to build. I think that ideology. I don't mean to be harsh or anything, but I think that ideology there is exactly what we don't want more of. I think trying to capitalize on the talent they do have now would probably be better off for them, obviously in the long run. And yeah, I'm not saying I'm opposed to anyone ever coming back ever, but I mean, I just that many people coming back. I don't know. I don't think I would want to see that.
You have a good point in that. Was to what I was just reading. To switch gears a little bit. So, a couple Ring of Honor stars may be going to TNA.
Yeah. It looks like Maria Kanellis and Mike Bennett are TNA bound. I don't know what that means contractually for them as far as indie shows, because I know they appear a lot here in Connecticut for Northeast Wrestling. At least Mike Bennett does. Mike Bennett's usually here on a pretty consistent basis. So I don't know if I know TNA in the past have been really stingy with their talent and kind of trying to keep them exclusive, and that's a lot of the reasons why a lot of talent has left the company is because of the exclusivity contracts that TNA seems to want to all of a sudden just make legitimate here. But I think a lot of people are questioning if this is the right move for Maria and Mike and what this means for the Kingdom and what they're going to do going forward. I think for Mike and Maria, I think they've been in ROH for a while. They've kind of run their course in ROH. Maybe TNA will be good for both of them, and maybe the door will be open for them to enter NXT or WWE in the future. So, I mean, I'm happy for them. I've always liked both of them. I've met both of them personally. Really nice people, and I'm happy for them.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see what happens with everything, and the post I'm seeing right now says that Matt Taven's under contract with Ring of Honor through the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting. Will he follow suit? Will that be the end of that tandem? A lot of interesting things, but a lot of names come and go from Ring of Honor. Yet they still kind of keep their head afloat, which is always a good thing. But what's interesting with that is I remember seeing that Mike Bennett and Maria were being talked about for a WWE role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that was some of those rumors were floating around a couple months ago. It looks like they've decided to go TNA instead, which I think is fine. I think TNA needs them. I think TNA needs some new talent and talents that have never been in TNA before. And Maria and Mike are perfect assets to the TNA brand, especially for their debut January 5th on Pop TV.
And from one name that hasn't been in TNA to another, if you guys are fans of wrestling news, which you guys should definitely check out wrestling-news.net and pwpnation.com for your news, just saying. Daniel Bryan. Sorry, Marc decided to send me a message, sir. Threw me off a little bit. Just busting on it. But Daniel Bryan, I mean, you got to be living under a rock not to realize he's been missing. And if you guys, like I was saying, if you're fans of wrestling news, and he's been in the news a little bit lately. Daniel Bryan saying that even if WWE doesn't clear him, his career wrestling is not over.
Yeah.
Could he follow suit and go to TNA? And would that be the little jolt of adrenaline that TNA needs to get back on the wagon, get back going again, get their wheels spinning? Mark, we'll start with you first.
I can't see them wanting to do that. I think they've tried to invest so much time and energy and have him built up into something. Not that he wasn't already great, but I think they would want him to try and end his career with the company. Stranger things have happened. I mean, everybody is either come or gone. But at this particular point, I think with his family being so invested in different facets of the company, I know, you can look at the whole CM Punk AJ Lee thing and how that maybe divided it up, but I can't see it not playing itself out where there are a lot of other things I think would have to probably happen for him not to go. I think I read something somewhere where they had the idea of him being a coach or having some sort of, but I mean, even if he's coming back and they have that part-time, we're talking about that with Kurt Angle, that part-time role where he still compete. It's part of having some Daniel Bryan out there is a heck of a lot better than having none at all.
Yep.
And, why not have him as a part of NXT, helping to develop talent, or part of the brands, or having kind of a part-time GM role that also competes. So he's still out there. It's still seen. Fans adore him. So really, his character's as over as it's ever been. I can't see that changing. But again, stranger things have happened. He could go. I just really have a hard time at this particular moment seeing that happening.
It's tough to imagine Daniel Bryan leaving WWE. I don't think TNA is a spot for him. I don't think he would even want to go there. I think if he ended up leaving WWE, I think he'd want to maybe test his hand in, going to New Japan possibly, because I know he's been dreaming about a Nakamura match for a long time. And of course, he could always return to ROH. For Daniel, I've kind of gone back and forth about this. Last year I wrote a piece on Daniel, kind of a letter-formatted piece where I kind of wrote a letter to him saying that he should retire. He should kind of call it quits just for the sake of his health and for the rest of his life. Obviously, I even said in the piece, it's not my place to say that, but I feel like, the guy, loves his wife very dearly, obviously, and I think they've talked about wanting kids, and Bree has talked about wanting kids, and I think if you're someone who is in Daniel's spot where you've wrestled for so long and you've become accustomed to taking these hits and these beatings, and maybe you'd want to take a step back and maybe take a coach's role in NXT or even an announcer's role, which I think Daniel would be really good in. I thought he was fantastic on Tough Enough as a judge. I think he'd be really good as a commentator alongside maybe a Michael Cole or JBL, or even on SmackDown alongside Mauro Ranallo and even Jerry Lawler or something. I don't know. I think there are so many possibilities for Daniel in WWE. It's only if he really wants to take those opportunities. I mean, the guy has said he wants to wrestle, and I don't know if I'm interested in seeing Daniel Bryan come back because I don't want to see the guy get hurt even more. I don't know if his body can handle the bumps anymore, even on a part-time basis. And I said when he was coming back this last time, where he returned for that little period and then went out again, I was surprised that he didn't change his style. He was still doing these crazy risks, these dives on the outside, the thing where he goes back and forth, turnbuckle to turnbuckle, and lands on his neck awkwardly. I mean, I was shocked that he was wrestling the same exact way. And maybe Daniel's that kind of guy. Maybe Daniel's the guy that is all or nothing, and if he's going to do it, he's going to do it the way he wants to do it. But I mean, if I'm Daniel, I would take a step back and look at my long-term future and decide if I really want to continue wrestling where it could possibly hinder my health. And another aspect of this entire topic is these indie guys like a Daniel Bryan who have wrestled on the indies for so long and finally make it to WWE, and their bodies start to break down because they've been roughing it up so much on the indies that once they get to the WWE, their bodies just kind of wear out. Like I had that same concern for guys like Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, guys that have have done this for so long, and maybe one day their bodies will just give out, and they finally make it to the big leagues. And that's why whenever I watch Kevin Owens wrestle, I really like it when he takes it kind of easy and stays on the ground. A lot of these crazy spots he does sometimes in big matches, I get a little worried because I'm afraid Owens will one day just take a bad bump or roll his knee, and that'll be it for him because he's had injury problems in the past. So I think Daniel's a perfect example of an indie guy who's been on the road for so long and finally makes his WWE, and his body just can't handle it anymore. And if I'm him, I take a look at my long-term future and maybe hang him up.
Yeah, it'd be disappointing because he was just starting to get into his own. When he first won the title from Cena before the Authority stuff happened, that split moment when he had the belt, a lot of people thought, could he be the guy to dethrone Cena? And everything pointed in that direction, especially after Mania 30. Could he finally be the one to dethrone Cena? Well, if anything, he's kind of looking like this generation's Bret Hart.
Yeah, and the thing about him, too, is that he's probably the only guy that's legitimately over as a babyface on the entire roster. Like, we talk about Roman Reigns, and, the guy still has a long way to go until he's universally loved, but I can't think of another babyface on the main roster right now that is universally loved like Daniel Bryan, and is legitimately over, that can go out there and just get a pop just for being out there. I don't know if anyone else on the main roster can do that right now. So, they're definitely going to lose if he does retire. They're definitely going to lose a big asset, and there's been the speculation that WWE is keeping him out on purpose because they don't want him to ruin the rise of Roman Reigns. I don't know how true that is. I doubt that's true at all. But it's definitely something to think about if they are maybe keeping him out. And last time I heard that he was going to go see a third doctor. I haven't heard if he's seen that third doctor yet. And then that doctor was going to make the final decision for WWE and Daniel. So, I guess we're just waiting on that.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, really, if they indeed were holding Bryan out just so they could say that they finally got Roman Reigns over, and, Roman Reigns could be the guy now. I mean, do I think that is the case? No, but it doesn't necessarily surprise me, given how much they've wanted to push Roman over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And, it's just unfortunate timing. WWE, it's a textbook case of Vince McMahon. I mean, it very well could be Triple H that wants to do it, but, it goes hand in hand with what we've all been saying about Vince McMahon for the longest time. He wants what he wants, and he'll be damned if he isn't going to get it. Yeah. Come hell or high water, like I said last week on the show, come hell or high water, McMahon was going to get Roman Reigns over. And, those plans don't necessarily, or even at all, involve Daniel Bryan. So, unfortunately, that's where we're at. Mark, you have any thoughts before we get ready to wrap up?
Well, it's a shame because of the storyline with Bryan going on and on and on, where who knew that he was getting as worn down as he was, coming to the point where, WrestleMania was going to happen, and they wanted to make that the moment. But then a couple months later, he was holding on, and WrestleMania itself, like that entire month, was such a rough time for him. Personally, with the passing of his father, and then the death of Connor as well, it just seemed like all this build, and then, emotionally, there's some personal things that have happened to him, and then physically things have happened to him. So then it was a long road for him to have to come back just to go back out again. I agree with you guys that having him in, unfortunately, does take away from Roman. Although they really tried to even have that moment in Fastlane where he's the one shaking Roman's hand and saying, get Brock, as though he's completely supports him moving forward. But then what happens if he was to come back? If he comes back in a different role, then it maybe doesn't. You know, maybe with Triple H out and Mr. McMahon knocked out, and maybe they assign Daniel Bryan as an interim general manager or something, where now they have no reason to dislike Roman. We got almost Roman protected by Daniel Bryan too, or you know that idea could work. They're in different roles. They're not in the midst of trying to feud or build fun part of a fantasy books with us. You know, we can kind of go wherever the idea is. We should be on payroll, but I don't know. And I hope that the future is great for him, whatever it is, whatever the fans get a chance to see. We'll always be able to enjoy whatever comes out of it.
For sure. And guys, that's pretty much going to do it here for our Christmas/holiday edition of the show. We thank you guys for taking time out of your week and time out of the holiday season for all of you to hang out with us and spend a little bit of the time hearing what we have to say. And like I said at the top of the show, thank you to all of you. You know, our listens are 250,000 almost strong now, which is an incredible amount, more than I ever thought we would have, honestly. And it's been amazing. You know, going into our second year, or going into our third year, I should say. And a thank you to the guests that have come on and taken time out of their schedules and their days to come chat with us. It was an honor to speak with all of you, and I look forward to hopefully speaking with all you guys again and speaking with whoever we will down the road. And Eron and Marc, again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday to you guys. And thank you for coming and hanging out for a bit.
Yep, no problem. Merry Christmas to everyone else listening, and Marc and John, you guys too.
You guys, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, have a New Year drink or two, or three, and see you in the New Year.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next week. Our year-end awards and year-end review show, New Year's edition of the broadcast. We'll see you guys next week, Lord willing. Have a great Christmas, great holiday, guys, and we'll catch you around next week. Have a good one, everybody. Alright, guys, at this time, Main Event Madness Radio, it is 2 minutes past 9 o'clock on the East Coast, and with us now is Bruce Hart, brother of WWE Hall of Famer Bret Hart. He's one of the most legendary names of wrestling and one of the most legendary families of wrestling, and I'm shutting up because Bruce is going to talk, and Al's going to talk, and Evan's going to chime in, and I'm just going to listen. Bruce, how are you, sir?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for the flattering introduction. I appreciate it. And, I'm looking forward to sharing perspectives with, as I told you guys before, I was impressed with your knowledge and sincerity, so that those are commodities that are in short supply, unfortunately, in the wrestling business these days. So it's always nice to talk to people who are knowledgeable and insightful and not shilling or not kissing somebody's sphincter and all that other stuff. So.
I'm Bruce Hart. I mean, it's Alfonso Merriman. I am grateful and appreciative that you were able to take time on this Wednesday night and talk with us. It means a lot. I know we got a good friend of yours on the other end of this call. That's Evan Ginsberg.
Yeah, a great guy. Another very well-respected wrestling journalist who, there's not enough guys like Evan out there that are knowledgeable and passionate and understand it and all of that. So I've known Evan for a number of years, and always had very high regard for Evan. He's beyond that a really nice guy too. genuinely nice.
Ditto, Bruce. Ditto. Bruce, I know you must have loved the finishes to Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker, and Cena and Seth Rollins when a talk show host ran into the ring for the finish.
Yeah, I was, it's funny, I hate to sound like I'm constantly just railing or,
oh, please, it's no different than what Evan does on
disparaging
here.
the
It's okay.
WWE all the time, because I quite honestly, if I see something that's good, I'm more than happy to acknowledge and give them props, and unfortunately, more often than not, I'm seeing aberrations like that Jon Stewart, whatever the hell that was, and same with the, Taker and Brock, I've said it for a long time, there's an old saying in the wrestling business, in order for a hot finish or something to get over, you actually have to make those swerve finishes few and far between. So, and you also have to justify, the ends have to justify the means, and all too often that doesn't seem to be the case. They just have these convoluted and, ill-conceived finishes that ultimately, they tarnish the ostensible propriety of the world title, and I said that for a long time, as far back as the Montreal Screwjob or whatever, regardless of whether the people perceive wrestling to be legit or illegit or whatever, it's still critical that you preserve some sense of integrity to your world titles, and it's a bit like the 1919 World Series with the Black Sox and all like that, but wrestling's the same, and if you cheapen the propriety of that, then everything else within your promotion is compromised, and they did kind of a double dosage of that, like, for me, that whole show, the SummerSlam was, a hodgepodge of matches that shouldn't have even, frankly, been worthy of being on that card. A lot of filler and crap, and I was saying, okay, that's fine, whatever, but at the very least, I figured they were going to maybe give us a straight finish or something that wasn't too insulting to your intelligence or whatever, and I was offended, and I couldn't find any redeeming value in what they did with Seth and Jon Stewart. I figure, well, hopefully Taker and Brock will, atone for some of that, nonsense that went on with Jon Stewart and all like that. And theirs was unfortunately just as bad. I sort of found myself just saying, this, if I'm inside the business, I just sort of feel like, how stupid do you think we are? And ultimately, I believe the fans legitimately would like to be allowed to, for want of a better term, suspend their disbelief. They actually, if you allowed them to, and I believe this, from having booked for many, many years up here, and when we were doing our thing up here, the fans, the matches and the finishes and all were that tight, and we went to great lengths to, keep it, under wraps. It's a different world then, but and ultimately, I believe the fans wanted it that way. They didn't want to be told that it was a work, just like some guy going to church or something like that, and you invest your belief and your hopes and fears and dreams, all this into this, and the last thing you want is for some guy who's doing fire and brimstone and all this other stuff, and then, oh, by the way, this is all the work. You don't want to hear that. And the average wrestling fan's the same, in my estimation. If you just allowed them to, and it seems, I have no idea what their rationale is. I've heard all these convoluted rationalizations about why they've chosen to make out like it's entertainment or a work or whatever, but none of them still hold any water for me. To me, it's all a bunch of kind of irrational crap, and because they've done that, they have to keep going farther and farther in the direction of excess. They have this mindless more is better mindset, more swerve finishes, more titles, more tits and ass, more steroid freaks or whatever. But I actually believe they need to go the other direction, where you need to reduce the excess, and whatever you do, simple pretext, have an ostensible reason for it. In my day, if I gave a guy a finish, I always used to invite all the wrestlers. If you don't understand it, or you need to know why we're wanting you to do this or that, feel free to ask. And if I can't give you a rational answer that justifies it, then call me out, or I shouldn't be in this position. And I hate to sound like some kind of a cynic, but I see all too often stuff that makes no sense to me whatsoever. I would venture to say, if I was right there and I was seeking accountability from whoever orchestrated this aberration, they couldn't even give me an explanation. So I think I'm not sure what that's symptomatic of, whether there's too many cooks in the kitchen, or their egos are so inflated that they don't feel like they have to account for anything, or I'm not sure what, but there's so many things that unfortunately detract from the good stuff that it gives me cause for concern, just about the the future of the business. I've always felt wrestling sort of like a damn cockroach or something like that, or somehow they survive in spite of all the excrement it's inflicted on itself and all the other. But at the same time, I'd like to see them raise the bar. Have more respect for themselves. I've always said, if they don't respect themselves, how and why should they expect anyone else to respect them? My dad used to say that, but all too often I see these idiotic charades like the one we were just alluding to, where they seem to have a propensity for having, like when they have these non-wrestling outsiders, like a Floyd Mayweather or Jon Stewart or something like that, they immediately kind of compromise themselves for these people, which is to me an insult to themselves or their own sport. Like they have Floyd Mayweather, might be a great boxer or whatever, but for me it was an affront to the wrestling business. You got some supposed giant, Big Show, 400-pound world's largest athlete, and I use the term loosely, is doing a job for a 140-pound boxer and stuff like that. It's like, for all intents and purposes, you should be endeavoring to respect and uphold the propriety of your own damn business. And if you're not, it doesn't say much about your respect for that business, and they need to, I think, upgrade that. They need to, go back to some of the basic tenets of what wrestling once was, and I think that if they chose to do some of those things, the business, it's amazingly resilient, to have survived all the crap that it's inflicted on itself and still, be as popular as it is. It's a sign of how potentially great it could be, and I believe it's only scratched the surface, but they really need to re-examine a lot of the things, I'm not, I don't have any idea who's responsible for a lot of the crap, and I hate to say it, but I'm seeing a lot more crap than I'm seeing good stuff, and I feel sorry for any wrestler who has any self-respect and any passion and pride and all like that, because I know if I was a wrestler and I had committed myself and busted my ass to be as good as the best I could be and all of those things, and then I went out there and saw whatever I was doing routinely compromised by all this horse shit that you see on a regular basis with 24/7 Network and Swerved and Hornswoggle making cameo appearances and divas who have about as much athletic aptitude as the Lincoln Memorial or something, masquerading as athletes and all this other, I believe the bar needs to be raised, but you got to be systematic about it. You have to actually, amongst yourselves, define what wrestling should be, how you want it to be perceived, how the wrestlers are going to, raise the bar. Like, I hate to be railing on the same people, but a lot of the guys I see out there don't, frankly, look, in my estimation, they're not nearly the level or the standard that was in the WWE, say, back in the 80s or even the 90s. As you guys know, when Vinny started his sort of takeover or whatever in the 80s, almost all his talent came from places like Stampede and AWA and Texas and Florida and Portland and all these places, and that's where all the talent came from. And they had a wealth of talent. Some of the guys who are on top these days would have been hard pressed to make the opening matches back in that era. And so I think they need to revisit that. I've said it in the past many times, the biggest mistake and the most egregious and hard to fathom mistake that Vinny and company have made was systematically, going to inordinate lengths to eliminate and, destroy all the promotions like Stampede and all the other ones. That was where all the damn talent was coming from, and contrary to the hype and the BS and the double talk and whatever that they would like you to believe about NXT and all of that, I've seen a few guys come up with a little bit of, they seem to have a bit of potential, but for the most part, even the guys that have risen to the top in the last decade or so, Daniel Bryan and some of them, they never came out of that. They were doing indie shows and, wherever they could find work in the Pacific Northwest or whatever, but what the WWE, beyond not developing many wrestlers that are comparable to the guys that they had a surplus of back in the 80s. They've killed the grassroots fan base, which is critical as well. Back in the day in any territory, whether it was Calgary or Amarillo or Portland or whatever, there was 6-7 shows a week, every week, year in, year out, in Calgary or any of those other places. And the fans were getting their fix, and they were chomping at the bit to come back the next week, and they were down there with their kids and their grandkids, and they were sustaining and resowing the seeds at the grassroots. Nowadays, they come to Calgary maybe once a year, usually with some kind of a sterile, thrown together show. They usually go out and barely go through the motions. If it's not TV or if it's not a pay-per-view or some damn thing, it's get in and get out and sell some merchandise, and it's like the circus, and the people usually leave with pretty feel like they've been ripped off and all like that, which they have been, and then they come back a year and a half later and do it again, but if you did that in any other sport, if you were sustaining your grassroots, football or baseball or hockey or whatever, it would be dead, and
Bruce,
it's a frustrating conundrum.
So far you've used the words crap, rip-off, sterile. All the context clues would indicate you didn't like the pay-per-view.
No, it's frustrating, because as I said before, the matches other than the main two they were all right. They weren't bad, they were adequate, and if they had, honestly, even if they had just had the swerve or the whatever in either one of those finishes, I would have been like, well, at least you had Seth and Cena, went out and delivered or whatever. But the two most important matches, were...
They killed it. They killed them
both lacking, they were ill-conceived. They did nothing to... restore the propriety or the ostensible legitimacy of the belts, and the Undertaker Brock thing. I think they had some obligation to the fans to deliver a better finish, given that the first Undertaker Brock thing was, for me, it's kind of lame, and it didn't deliver either, and I thought, okay, that was the main reason they were, doing this again, and the second one was possibly even worse than the first. So, I don't want to be sounding like all I ever do is dump on those guys, because I'm really trying to cut them some slack. I'm really trying to, be objective. I like some of the stuff. Like Kevin Owen, to me, is
tremendous.
Kind of been a breath of fresh air. I thought he, aside from the outfit he wears, which I'm not sure why they have. I'm not sure what that's about. But aside from that, he's sort of like a throwback to some of the heels in the 70s and 80s, that type of thing, where he, can actually work, and understand some of the basic elements of ring psychology to sell the comeback. He works the crowd, he takes some bumps, he, doesn't deviate too much, stays on one track, and those are all elements of good working, and that unfortunately seem to be dissipating or eroding in recent years, but yeah, it's not that complicated. And I hope when I'm talking about those things, I don't sound like I'm complicating it or making it out to be, harder to attain than it is. It's relatively simple business, and it frustrates the hell out of me when I keep seeing them going farther and farther away from conventionality and thinking that's the answer. It's obviously reflective of the fact that they got all these eunuchs in a whorehouse, these, writers and stuff who've never been in there, have never done it, but, they're trying to incorporate all this non-wrestling crap instead of wrestling, Be like watching the NFL and, you got all of a sudden guys wearing feathers in their helmets and having divas interacting with the players during a game and all,
it would be like creating the XFL, basically, right? Well, Vince McMahon did, right? Watch the NFL, like that. That's how you feel about it. I understand.
Having he hate me on my jersey or bullshit.
He hate me now, whatever. I agree with that. And let me ask you, and I was curious to know, there was about a 13-year gap between when you were working under the WWE umbrella and then when you were at WrestleMania with your brother and that match with the Lumberjacks and all that. It's a cool perspective because not a lot of fans and not a lot of people could. You've had different experiences around the product. What was it like, in that 13-year gap, being backstage and then coming out at WrestleMania to be a part of that with your brother? I mean, what were some of the biggest differences you saw between then and at that point?
It's always been sort of bittersweet. Unfortunately, my experiences with the WWE, I can only surmise that there's politics and underlying motives and crap, but I always hate to sound like I'm purporting myself to be some kind of a know-it-all or omnipotent deity or anything like that, because I'm pretty objective and all like that, but anytime I worked for them, it was frustrating because I always sort of felt like I had some obligation to be forthright and tell them what I thought about I know, for example, at WrestleMania when we did that thing with Brett and Vince, they ran that finish by us before the show, several hours before the show, the day of in Phoenix, and they're all sitting there and saying they run this whole thing where I'm supposedly the referee and the Hart family's been bought off like we're a bunch of kind of unprincipled whores. We've been bought off by Vinny, and then Brett paid us even more, so we're kind of not only whores, but we're kind of not whores of our words either, all this other. But anyway, they ran that. They said, "What do you think?" Michael Hayes and Hunter and Vinny and all like that. I said, "It's your business. Obviously, you guys will do what you wish to or choose to." So I'm fine with that. I said, just from my outside perspective, I said it doesn't seem to make a whole hell of a lot of sense, and there's not that much, I don't see any return coming out of it, or any, doesn't really do justice to anything. I said, just off the top of my head, I'll tell you what I would be doing if I was you guys. And I said, given that this is Brett's first match back since his debilitating stroke or whatever that was near fatal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I said it would be fairly easy to have it where Brett's selling his ass off. A big part of any really decent baby face is getting sympathy. It's a big part of that whole thing. So I said, Vinny's playing the omnipotent heel or whatever. So, if any was working Brett over, and whether it didn't matter if I was the referee or whether he's doing it on his own and he's got foreign objects or he's getting help from Hunter on the floor or whatever. But I said, also keep in mind, not only is this Brett's first match since the stroke, but I said, you guys orchestrated some charade backstage where he got his legs slammed in a limousine door or some backstage charade where Brett was further injured. So I said, Brett's just selling his ass off, and people are, should be wondering if he's going to even survive this onslaught and, all that other. And so I said, finally, Brett starts rallying and makes his, penultimate comeback or whatever. And I said, right at that, he finally gets Vinny in the sharpshooter or whatever. And I said, right at that time, have Stephanie come, distraught to the ring and occupy the referee, and Hunter comes in and, ambushes Brett and is about to give him, is getting him ready to give the pedigree or whatever. I said at that point what I would do is have the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, who you guys might remember, had this kind of big kiss and makeup and
Monday Night Raw. I'll remember that. I'll never forget
Brett.
it. Yes.
So I said beyond that, there was some kind of falling out at Royal Rumble. You guys did something where Hunter and Shawn had some kind of a falling out over the finish. One, kind of caused the other to be eliminated. So I said, who hits the ring? But the Heartbreak Kid, Brett's up till a few weeks ago mortal enemy, and he comes in and gives the sweet chin music to Hunter, the kick or whatever, because Hunter's, about to give Brett the pedigree, so he can't block it or whatever. And then I said, you've got, you can either have Brett go over, or you have a four-way with Brett and Shawn and Hunter and Vinny. And I said, you have all of a sudden the pieces in place for this Hell Freezes Over match that nobody would have ever expected. I said, from having been a booker myself, those are the matches that always, get the best reaction and, are breaking box office records, the ones that nobody saw coming, and that's a big part of being a successful booker is, doing stuff that is unpredictable or they didn't ever see coming. That's really what subliminally they want. They want to, for want of a better term, these mind fucks, I saw these guys listening to this stuff when I was running it by them, and they're all looking like, wow, that seems to be pretty hot. Like, why didn't we think of that or whatever the hell?
That's awesome.
And much to my kind of dismay, Brett was the one who kind of nixed it. He said, he had some, contractual restriction with his Lloyd's of London thing or some bullshit that he could only have the one match. So,
and let me ask you, Bruce, when and this is just me out of being curious, were you always in the plans for WrestleMania, or did that come about later on? Did Bret Hart come to you, or did WWE, Vinny, or even Triple H? How did that come together?
I have no great idea. The initial ostensible initiative was to induct my dad into the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And I think as an extension of that, they decided to do this thing with Bret and Vinny. And I think possibly in, putting that together, they came up with this charade where they had all the Hart family and all that stuff in there. And I was appreciative. I have this kind of warped relationship with WWE where I'm, to a degree, appreciative of some of the seemingly honorable intent. Other times I'm like more frustrated with just the what they've done to the business, because I and my dad and my brothers and all, we sort of dedicated our hearts and souls to this business, and it frustrates me when all too often they're dragging it through the mud, or it's kind of not putting its best foot forward.
And let me ask you, speaking of your brothers and whatnot, today they released the the first promotional video package of Owen Hart's DVD. Owen, the Heart of Gold. I think that's what they're calling it. I want to get your thoughts. Are you happy to see this DVD come together? Were you a part of it? Did they come to your... just, let us know about that.
To be totally honest, I wasn't... I've heard some scuttlebutt about maybe a video being released or something like that.
Yeah,
some speculative scuttlebutt about that potentially being a step toward Owen being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I've been telling Vinny and others, for several years that, to be quite honest, it's an insult and affront to Owen and Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid that they're not in the damn Hall of Fame when, people like Medusa and, the Bushwhackers, who are old friends of mine, but, having those guys in and Owen or the Bulldogs not in is, it's an affront. It's like having Mark the Bird Fidrich and the San Diego Chicken in the damned Baseball Hall of Fame before you're inducting, Willie Mays and, Mickey Mantle or something like that.
And let me ask you this. Well, why do you think it's taken them so long to have this on? I mean, even Davey, British Bulldog, why do you think it's taken them so long? Do you have any...
I honestly don't know.
It's tough for me as a fan. I think it should have been done, and I'd love to hear your point of view on your thoughts on it.
I think to preserve this ostensible propriety or the legitimacy or whatever of that Hall of Fame, that it has to be more based on wrestling, not politics or whatever. I have nothing against Mike Von Erich or Chris Von Erich or Medusa or Sherry Martel or Bob Uecker or William Perry or whatever the hell, but
the fridge.
I keep seeing these people like that. I hate to say it, they're almost more the rule than the exception. And adding to it, they have they've chosen to induct a number of people who are non-WWE or WWF performers, that including my dad or some of these other guys. But if they're going to do that, then it begs the obvious question: how come Lou Thez is not in the Hall of Fame, or Frank Gotch, or some of these other giants? Like Lou Thez isn't just some guy who was over a bit. He was like the the face of the NWA, which was the main wrestling organization in the world for several decades. So for a guy like Lou Thez or Frank Gotch or Strangler Lewis or George Hackenschmidt or Whipper Watson or Danny Hodge or, guys like that to be excluded, and yet they're putting in Mike Von Erich and, the Bushwhackers, Medusa, and I think Medusa's only claim to fame is, not endeavoring to denounce or whatever, but is taking the WWF belt and dumping it on a garbage can on Nitro, on WCW. Like, whatever she did in the ring was
irrelevant,
relatively
What about
insignificant as far as I recall. I don't recall her being like the, face of women's wrestling or anything, So.
And let me ask you this: what would it mean to you to have Owen and inducted? I mean, having this DVD come out, maybe it is a precursor to having him finally this upcoming Hall of Fame. But what would it mean to you and the Hart family? And I mean, what would it mean to you, Bruce?
At this point, I have to say it would be a mixed feeling because if only because they haven't thus far even chosen to do it, which in its own way is somewhat of a slap in the face. That it's taken this long, and they haven't. I would say the same was the case with Randy Savage. It's like finally at last, but the fact that he was overlooked for so many years, and unfortunately, till after he died. In the meantime, they had all these other guys that couldn't carry his jock or lace up his tights that were being inducted. It's sort of it's like bittersweet, or the glass is half empty, half full type thing. To see that, I'd like to see Owen and the Bulldogs inducted, if only because it's a tribute to them. They're certainly worthy of it, and I think it would mean something to their families. Obviously, I think and I am sure that's one of the main trepidations they have is incurring Martha's displeasure, or she might, I'm doubtful that she would even support it, frankly. But at the same time, I think if they did it in a tasteful, non-exploitative, sincere manner, then I think it would kind of diminish the magnitude of Martha's displeasure if she was denouncing it or criticizing them, But
I mean, do you think the WWE has been scared of having I hate talking about it, but having this bad publicity stir up again, the way he passed away? You think that's been one of those things hindering? There's a cloud over it. You think that's what's been holding them back?
Oh, yeah, I think there's probably a lot of dynamics. It's pretty. It's a sensitive issue,
Definitely.
And even my advocating that Owen should be in the Hall of Fame, I wouldn't want anyone, say if Martha was listening to this, I wouldn't want anyone thinking that I was taking lightly or, trivializing, what happened, because I'm certainly not, it's a horrible tragedy, but at the same time, my belief is that Owen himself, would have wanted to be honored as such. He took great pride in his craft and being, a great worker, and he was very proud of, the status he attained in the WWE, and so by that token, I think, honestly believe that he would be proud and honored to be in that Hall of Fame, And I'd say the same about Davey Boy and Dynamite, and
Yeah.
I've said it many times with Dynamite especially. It's kind of a shame that most people's perceptions of him are just what he did in the WWE, because
he did a lot of great other stuff. Yeah.
anyone who's actually around the wrestling business or is familiar with him knows that he was, way, way better before he ever got to the WWE. His body was beaten up. He had blown his knees out and his back was shot, and he was just really a shadow of what he had been earlier, and he was, if you talk to most guys that ever worked with him or were in the business with him, he would rank in the top 5 of almost anyone's list of the best workers of all time. He was that good, and best thing about Dynamite was he had this unique, uncanny ability to make whoever he was working with look way better than they had any right to look, myself included, and Brett and all them. He was one of those guys that whatever you did in a match, he devoted almost 90% of his blood, sweat, and tears into getting the other guy over. And he still was more than capable of getting himself over. But, there's not too many guys that are even in his league, since, there's only a handful that, and so, for him not to be in the Hall of Fame is, especially, I mentioned that to WWE, he's, as you guys may know, he's not in great health. He's had some pretty serious health issues, and it would be kind of nice to see him inducted while he's still alive, unlike, say, Randy Savage and some of them, but...
And let me ask you, do you, and it's just because we're getting questions in and whatnot, for you, you're close to the family, would you prefer to see, the Kid and Davey Boy and Owen Hart inducted separately, or would it mean the same if they were, everybody was inducted as, a group to Hart, a foundation? I mean, what would you personally like to see? Or what do you think means the most? I mean, at this point,
or would you be would you be offended if that they took the easy way out and just to appease people of seeing?
I would say if the Bulldog, if and when they choose to induct Dynamite and Davey, I think it would probably be probably a package deal. Like, I won't be inducting Bushwhacker Luke one year and then Bushwhacker Butch the next year, some damn thing like that, But, for all intents and purposes, the Bulldogs were never really singles guys ever, and Davey was after Dynamite disappeared.
Yes.
Up till that time, there was just the Bulldogs. So I would think that it would be best if they were inducted together. I mentioned it to WWE that I frankly think Owen would be deserving of just being inducted by himself, but at the same time, it might kind of be more palatable or easier for them to explain. If Martha's, bitterly opposed to, which is quite possible, that you had Owen, Davey, and Dynamite, like this iconic Stampede Wrestling trio coming in together, kind of like a bit like the Von Erichs or something like that. So it would make it a little less, hard for her to, protest it as much if if he's part of this triage or whatever, But so that's sort of how I feel about that. But
and let me ask you, we touch on it a bit. when we spoke the other day on a personal conversation, and just to get your insight, and you could go as far deep as you want. When that Tyson Kidd was injured pretty bad recently, and I just want to know if have you heard anything new about him, and with Natty and all that. I mean, any insight on that, and how was you told me a little bit about how you received the call and you found out about it and how injured he is. I wanted to see your insight. I know it's a big deal, really big injury he has right now.
Yeah, I don't know that much about.
Mm-hmm.
I never did see the. I was taken aback when I heard about the just the way the WWE apparently handled it. I was told that he injured his neck quite badly in that match with Samoa Joe or whatever, but I was told that when he was in the dressing room after I'm trying to remember the guy's name. There was one agent.
I think who was it? Maybe Michael P. Was it Michael Hayes or somebody? I don't remember.
No, not Hayes. It was some Carrillo or...
Yeah.
Some guy like that. I hadn't heard the name before, but I was told he indifferently said, go take a shower, and he said, no, my neck's really fucked up, and I was told this guy said, well, we're not going to pay for an ambulance, whatever, so, and they were almost making out like he was, some kind of a hypochondriac or a wimp or something. So my niece, Nettie, his wife or whatever, she, they said, if you want to go to the hospital, it's your choice or whatever, but so she set out for the hospital, and she got lost in San Antonio or whatever, and she finally got there after some kind of, driving around and all this other, and when they got there, they did the CAT scans and the MRIs and all like that. They, immediately determined that it was a near fatal injury that was just a fraction of an inch from either being, a fatality or, paralysis from the neck down type thing, So they notified the WWE of this, and I was told there was only a few, 3 or 4 places in the United States where they could actually perform this type of microsurgery that would, stabilize and
treat him,
kind of do what they needed to for his neck. So they had to at that point charter some kind of an air ambulance or something like that from San Antonio to Florida, which is the closest place. Like, there's apparently no place even in Texas that did this type of surgery. So I heard that cost about $100,000 for the air ambulance. And they had to fly him back to Florida for that. And at this point, I was told they haven't made any contact. Like, WWE hasn't called or anything. I've been told that some of the wrestlers have checked, called TJ. That's what I know him as. They call him Tyson. Bogus name, but but they at this point, it's as far as I'm told, it's certain that his career is over. He's been told that he's fortunate not to be a quadriplegic or like Darren Drozdick or maybe dead. So it was It's frustrating when I heard about it, the fact that it was just kind of a thrown together thing, and I was told that TJ wasn't even supposed to wrestle that night. He was the only reason he happened to be there at all that night. They're doing some kind of a promotion thing for Sonic or Slurpees or something like that, and he happened to be there, and somebody wanted Samoan Joe to get, have a dark match, or, they wanted to see him work, and somebody said throw him in with TJ, and, it was kind of a hastily arranged, not very well, orchestrated, whatever, and, when you do stuff like that, it's kind of inviting, kind of injury or accidents, and that's pretty much what happened, and it's too bad, I don't like to sound like I'm railing on the present day wrestlers, but one of the things that pisses me off, and it's a step in the wrong direction altogether, is these guys are doing way, way too many what we used to call effing high spots, and
being too creative, right?
Wrestling.
Yes.
You need to actually have some wrestling as the foundation or the main course in order to make a high spot mean something. If you did a fraction, if you did maybe 10% of the high spots you're doing, but you did them at a more propitious time, then they would mean more. Instead, what they've converted into is stuff that people used to react to as almost, ho-hum. And even if they choose to react to it, they're not allowed to, because these idiot, these moron wrestlers that are, don't know how to work, before the fans had even had a chance to digest or react to something, these morons are going into the next high spot, So after a while, the fans don't even cheer because, they don't feel like their input's got any bearing on anything anyway, and so it's all, convoluted and ass backward, but, a high spot ceases to be a high spot, in my estimation. If all you're doing is effing high spots, you may as well go out and be a break dancer, a damned, wannabe Evel Knievel, or a damned, circus performer who probably has to shovel elephant shit after the circus, in order to justify your, $100 a week salary or some bullshit, But forgive my cynicism, but.
I mean, it blows my mind. It's a sad story. I mean, and you know the story because you're around.
Yeah, the frustrating part
how many times does this happen? I mean, besides with TJ and every, it blows my mind. It blows my mind.
The sad part about it is I see the potential for that all the time, and I shake my head and saying, why are they doing this? You need not, be putting these guys at risk like that. You need to go back to wrestling. Wrestling is still supposed to be the operative word, not, falling off the top of cages and doing these, for me, a sign of how fucked up it all is when you have a whole pay-per-view of tables, ladders, chairs. Somebody needs to remind these people that none of these matches mean anything. These stipulation matches, if you don't have some pretext for having them. In my day, if you had a cage match, it was the culmination of all this, whatever preceded it, and that was finally the only way that you could unload or, resolve this, build-up, was to have a cage or a chain match or a Texas death match or lumberjack or whatever the hell.
Essentially, the cage
you don't just have those matches for the hell of it, and it drives me nuts when I see a whole card of tables, ladders, chairs, elimination chamber matches, and all this other between guys who don't even have any, ostensible issues with each other. And, why is Sheamus having a cage match with, Kevin Owens or something like that? They don't even have any, any issues with each other and all that,
Bruce, to prove your point, even after a lot of these shows, like after SmackDown tapings and Raw tapings, they'll toss up a cage and it'll be some random guys that have no beef, and they'll go at it. I witnessed it
just
in
for
person
the sake of
at a
saying,
Smack. Yeah, it's just
for the sake of saying that there's a cage match. Watch this.
Yeah, and what really drives me nuts, guys, is the only reason for having an effing cage match is to keep the two guys in there.
Exactly.
So instead, they contradict the whole purpose of the effing thing by having the stupid little door, and they reward the guy who escapes. And it's like there should be no escape.
They win the match that way too now.
Yeah, the gutless chicken shit coward that escaped is the winner, and he's given the belt. And I'm going like it's a complete contradiction or a bastardization of whatever. Yeah. The only reason, in my day when you had a cage match, there was no little door or fuck all. It was,
I remember. I think I remember too. It was Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair's back in the day, and they wrestled an entire match inside the cage because they hated each other, and that was it. They used the cage.
He finally had to have justice.
Submit. That's it.
Justice is served finally. There's no escape. The chicken shit heel can't run or hide, and no way out or whatever. And that was why the fans paid to see it, because they figured finally the face is going to, have justice and win the belt and all like that. And so, it drives me nuts when you have these, stiff matches, and then you contradict, the very meaning of it by having the chicken shit heel rewarded for escaping or some crap like that. Like somebody needs to, give those guys, some kind of an education on what these stipulations are even pertaining to, but I don't know. I hate to sound like I'm just criticizing, hopefully I'm not sounding like that, but they need to be, there needs to be more method to the madness, for want of a better term. You got to have, more thought put into things, and you need to have more finishes in the middle for, a hot or a swerve finish to mean anything, and you've got to minimize the, it drives me nuts when I see on a card, when I see it's essentially underneath jabroni types doing high spots all night and all. When I was breaking in, and most of the veterans will tell you that, I remember the green guys in the preliminary, the opening matches and stuff were doing high spots, so they were doing nut shots, so they were going out and hitting guys with chairs or getting juice and stuff like that. The veterans would ream their asses out in the dressing room after, or they'd maybe get fired. It's like, some opening act, preceding the Rolling Stones and going out and smashing guitars and stomping on gerbils or whatever the hell they do, and, the Rolling Stones would, fire them, or, and that's, the way it should be. You don't need the cartoon or the previews at a movie to, top the movie, and the bookers, or I don't even know what who orchestrates the finishes or gives them out or oversees that in WWE anymore, but and I honestly think there should only be one person, I might add, doing that. Not, you don't need 18 people undermining Bill Belichick, in the Super Bowl game. Let him, and the buck has to stop someplace. But I see that all the time where, you have these Divas matches, and frankly, and not to rail on the Divas or digress here, but I would only have the Divas on maybe, every now and then, maybe once or twice a year. I don't know what you do with them the rest of the time or what the hell, but to me, they're not meant to be on every damned show. In my day, we'd have the girls come up and or the midgets maybe once a year, and that was that. Maybe 1 week or 2 weeks at the most, and enough, good riddance, and there's no appetite for them after that. And some of them aren't bad workers. Most of them are abysmal, though. To me, the novelty's no longer there. And I've said it before too. I think it's more the road to ruin than the road to salvation to have the 24/7 network. I don't know how that is going to sustain itself, say a year from now. I don't know what new material. They've already inflicted virtually everything in their library on everyone already. The old pay-per-views and the old, Legends House and all that other stuff. I don't know where they're going to get, a new bunch of stuff. If there's some promotion that we've never heard of that was underground for the last 50 years or something. Maybe they have something that I don't know of, but I don't even know, and beyond all that, I find if you overdose or shove so much of that down people's throat, there's no, I can't even imagine what kind of a brain dead, mutant or whatever could watch 24/7 a day, if that, I don't know whether anyone does, or, maybe I'm, underestimating their passion or something,
It says Evan says some of them need to get out of their parents' basements.
Yeah, some need to get out of the parents' basement, that's for sure.
Bruce, I was at the gym Monday night at 8:30, and there were 20 TVs at the gym, and I'm looking across the entire row. Not one of them had wrestling on. There's a whole world outside of WWE.
The world's coming to an end.
Imagine?
And it's frustrating, there's so many, seemingly flagrant contradictions, where they go to great lengths to assert that it's entertainment and it's work and it's not to be taken seriously and all this other, and then they, have this so-called tough enough, and they're making out like we're supposed to perceive that to be real or whatever, I can't fathom all the, inconsistency there, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's every bit as rigged and worked and based on, butt kissing or making impressions or whatever as anything else, and yet somehow they're trying to make out like it's, some kind of a quasi shoot or something like that. I can't wrap my head around the rationale of so many of these things. Maybe I'm trying to be too analytic or rational or whatever the hell. I don't know. But too many of those things, one cancels out the other, and if you get too many things canceling too many other things, the whole thing shrivels down to like kind of a dried up turd or something like that, which isn't marketable, but I don't know. I hate to sound like I'm just kind of dumping on them, but it frustrates you when you see opportunities missed, and they're certainly not putting their best foot forward.
And let me ask you, I know like with Evan and yourself, I know it's tough for both of you to watch the WWE sometimes, but at your core and at your heart, it's got to be pretty cool to see that wrestling it's still around. Are you guys still happy to know that Vince in his own way, has been able to, have wrestling live at a mainstream for so long, or would you rather just have it how it used to be? You know what I mean? And they used to sell out arenas now, but I just want your take. I mean, from then and now, are you guys still happy? You still talking? Say, you're here.
Quite honestly,
yeah,
and from a totally unselfish perspective, this is from somebody who's been in the wrestling business and has, it's been a big part of my family and most of the people I know.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see the wrestling business, kind of improve itself or revamp itself for the next generation.
What would it take to do that?
I think they need to resow the seeds at the grassroots. They need to reestablish smaller territories, and they need to not be perceiving smaller territories to be a threat, or they don't need to think they need to own or control. Like back in the day, as we were talking about when WWE was first in the early stages of Hulkamania and all like that. To me, that was one of the most egregious mistakes and blunders that they ever made. Was I'm not sure if it was insecurity or egocentricity or megalomania or whatever the hell, but they should never. There was no reason or justification for going to the inordinate lengths they did to eliminate Stampede Wrestling or AWA or whatever they had in Portland or Florida or Georgia or St. Louis or Oklahoma or Louisiana or whatever.
Yeah, they bought everything.
What they should have, if you could imagine Major League Baseball, doing everything in its power to eliminate minor league baseball and little league and all of that, or the NBA, the NFL and NBA deciding that college basketball and football are a threat, so we've got to wipe them off the map. That's pretty much what the WWE did, and since they've done that, they basically killed the grassroots of the business, but they also eliminated most of where the great talent was coming from, and it's mind-boggling because you find yourself saying, all those promotions like my dad's or whatever, all they were doing was providing, a non-stop supply of people like Owen Hart and Brian Pillman and Chris Benoit and Davey Boy Smith and Bret Hart and Jake Roberts and all these others, and they weren't paying anything for any of that, and same with Portland was sending guys like Rick Martel and Roddy Piper and Vern Gagne was selling, guys like Kurt Hennig and Jesse Ventura and Hawk and Animal and Hulk Hogan and all like that, If you haven't paid any, so, why would they go to, such lengths to,
Bruce, nothing has
get rid of
changed. Nothing has changed. This past weekend, the SummerSlam weekend, that Saturday, NXT ran same time, same borough as Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor. I was at the Ring of Honor show, of course. Ring of Honor has fed them Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, etc., so on. So they're going up against what's pretty much their own feeder system. Okay, it's just ruthless, ruthless. Of all the towns to run, they had to run right against Ring of Honor, same night, same time.
It's frustrating because I believe there's plenty out there for everyone, and one of the other, even if WWE was, doing a lot better job of developing talent than they are, one one of the key things is diversity. That was one of the things that made those guys back in the 80s. You know, even I, as a fan, when I see WWE, I was intrigued with how guys from different backgrounds would mesh, and that was a big part of it. You got guys like Kurt Hennig coming from, you know, Minneapolis. You got guys like Kerry Von Erich coming from Fritz's territory. You got guys like Bulldogs and Brett coming from Calgary, or you got Piper coming from Portland or places like that. And they all had different styles, but that was one of the things that was intriguing and, you know, made it what it was. You know, nowadays, it's even if they're getting trained very well in NXT, and I don't believe they are, they're all coming from the same cookie cutter factory, so there's not much diversity. And I've said it for years that even if they had the best training in under the sun at NXT, you still need to send these guys somewhere for a year or two. You can take little kids and teach, you know, even if they're incredible athletes and all like that, they still need to go play Little League and, you know, university or whatever before they get to the majors. But it's not even fair to these wrestlers, you know, even if they are, and in most cases they're not. Expect them, you know, there's so many little subtleties that you pick up when you're just working on the road, and you're, you know, so many little things we used to pick up when you're on the road with these old veterans, and you'd be, you know, on a 10-hour trip coming back from Saskatchewan or something. That was where you learned so many of these things. You'd have, you know, be a captive audience, and you'd have these old farts schooling you, and quite often they weren't that diplomatic either. You know?
And I agree. You know, and here's a question that, you know, I don't know if I'm crossing the line here. I'm very curious to know if, you know, if you, me, or even Evan, or even John were in the position of Vince McMahon. You know, he's the owner of this wrestling company. He was never really a wrestler or an entertainer, and all he did was look at the numbers. That's what he did, and that's how he's made his business. And he started seeing that branding someone like Hulk Hogan with Hulkamania and stuff like that was best for his business. You know, Bruce, I know you're wrestling hardcore. Evan, wrestling. Even me. I mean, I love wrestling to its core. But do you think if even one of the four of us was in that position, would we take wrestling to its core? Or, Bruce, would you try to find a balance where I create my brand, make a multi-billion-dollar company, and say, fuck the rest? Like, that's what I think Vince McMahon does. I'm not trying to defend Vince McMahon. My question is, you know, looking at it as Vince, he not a wrestler or whatever the case is, but, you know, I'm quick to bash him too, but, you know, he created something. You know, we're talking about wrestling right now, or in sports entertainment, how he calls it. You know, how would he do things differently? If you were in his position, I mean, and that's a difficult thing to do because we don't see things through his eyes.
Yeah.
Well, what is your take? And no disrespect.
Without sounding too simplistic or naive, I think he should have been a lot more interactive and supportive of, you know, people like, you know, I surmise that he either didn't trust most of the other promoters like my dad or the Eddie Grahams or the Fritz or Vern or Sam Muchnick or whoever, you know. I'm not sure if he didn't trust them or he just wanted to kind of be like Attila the Hun or you know, one of those, you know, scorched earth policy or whatever the hell. But I think ultimately, though, they need to you know, objectively sit down and recognize that I think a big part of their problem, and if they try to, and it seems like they're trying to convince people that everything's better than ever and their ratings are better and all this other, but just from a simplistic perspective, it's quite obvious, and just by the fact that every time you turn around, they're pushing a guy like Sting, or they're pushing some long over the hill blast from the past, and they're bringing Dwayne Johnson back for a cameo appearance, or they're bringing The Undertaker back for, what that basically tells me, at least, is there's not too many new guys on the way up that, have the cachet or the ability or whatever that they can carry the ball. And it's all well and good if you, every now and then you have some guy like Mario Lemieux or something comes back from something and, has a bit of a run, but it's few and far between in most other sports, and it's almost the rule rather than the exception in WWE. And I don't watch NXT that often, but even if they were turning the best wrestlers under the sun out in that, what they need to do with those guys is send them out to, somewhere where nobody in the WWE universe or whatever sees them. That used to be the MO back in the day. Vern Gagne would send you, some guy that he thought was a hot prospect, and they would work Calgary for a year or whatever and go back, and they would come back and hit the ground running like some kind of a Superman or whatever. And that's what NXT, and I don't think those guys are Supermen for the most part, but the last thing you want to do with some guy who's a really hot prospect, in my estimation, is have everyone see them.
So do you think
at the embryonic stage when they're, kind of a trial and error, hit and miss rookie, and they got a lame name, and they're, all that other. His image is everything, as Andre Agassi or somebody used to say, and so in the old days when a guy hit the territory, and Vince should know that better than anyone, because he used to have guys like King Kong Bundy and them, and they would, destroy S.D. Jones in 6 seconds, and, and you have to have these guys perceived as Supermen, kind of like the shark in Jaws or something like that. But if everyone's already seen them and they're saying, "Oh, that's Joe Blow from NXT," he used to be, but he's getting better now. That's not the way to really create those kind of compelling images that they need to create. And they should. This is all sort of standard stuff, or at least, I perceived it to be that when I was breaking in and coming up in the business. This is, stuff that it was kind of regularly understood. Guys needed to, do this in order to, be perceived to be monster heels and all this other. But,
so do you think
everything they do is a complete departure from, the stuff that I kind of was brought up on, as far as what working was about, protecting the ostensible integrity of the business and all this other. It's like kind of any success they have is in spite of themselves, not because of their omnipotence and brilliance. And I don't like to sound cynical. That's about the way I see it. More often than not, they're shooting themselves in the foot than hitting the bullseye. There should be a lot more method to the so-called madness.
Do you think a better approach would be kind of like what they did in in the 90s as far as having talent and booking talent, in the early 90s when Hogan and Savage and Luger and Flair were all, and Warrior were gone, or their careers were winding down.
Mainly a byproduct of the steroid scandal, from what I heard. That's why all of a sudden
but do you think
most of the guys you mentioned were all of a sudden these mere mortals like Brett and Shawn Michaels kind of replaced these
But do you think as far as like from a booking perspective, touching on Al's question, do you think a better point of view to have with it would be like what Vince has now, where he can go to the well and get the guys like The Undertaker and Sting and The Rock, like you mentioned? Or do you think a better way to do it would be, like back in the 90s when the steroids started taking their effect on those guys, and Vince had to take a step back and realize, okay, well, I don't have those options anymore. I got to go look in-house, and I've got Bret Hart, and I've got Shawn Michaels, and I've got The Undertaker. These younger guys, I might as well just see what they can do instead of going back to the well and getting the same old guys to come out and do the same old thing again when I have these newer guys that could do something even better.
Oh, totally. And, I frankly find it kind of counterproductive and offensive to make out like you have to have some bullshit contest like Tough Enough and all like that. Mm-hmm. What they should be doing is, if I was them, I would be just endeavoring to, kind of, even if they were financing, though, I would be setting up these territories, and and you don't need to spend that much to do that by setting up these territories in different outposts, maybe one in Europe, maybe half a dozen in the States, touring.
So kind of take like the NXT idea, but do it in a bunch of different locales.
Scouting, and I have no doubt there's a hell of a lot better prospects and athletes out there than is getting into the WWE. You
didn't like the guy with the alligator on his head?
I didn't see him.
Okay.
I'm trying to refrain from inflicting.
Okay.
You really didn't miss that much.
But all I'm saying, is, Calgary's not that big of a place, but my dad, he was old school, as you guys know, but he would be endeavoring to bring, for all intents and purposes, athletes and guys with some amateur backgrounds, or he had a lot of football players, a few bodybuilders like Billy Graham and something like that. But there was a myriad of legendary guys came out of Calgary, and I've often wondered, like, if you had more guys that had a similar mindset to Stu, and you were, endeavoring to produce, guys of that caliber. I think there's all kinds of prospects out there, and if you taught them, essentially the same way that, they were taught back in the dungeon, which is pretty systematic, it was mostly about wrestling and simulating realism and understanding the facets of ring psychology. The sell sets up the comeback, and whatever you do it for a reason, and it's pretty purposeful and systematic. Just like any other type of education. If you had guys like that, and there was a number of other places like in the States or England or Japan or whatever, I think, if you restored some semblance of legitimacy in the art to the wrestling, then you would not need to be having to do all this, horseshit, the gimmicks and the extremism and the tits and ass and the overkill and all like that. As a rule, we used to refer to that, and my dad used to refer to that as hot shotting, and that was always a sign of a territory was on its, in a tailspin, or they were in desperation. They were having cage matches and tar and feather matches, and midgets and bald-headed lady wrestlers and all this stuff. And I remember that was almost kind of like there was a guy that Evans probably heard of. He was kind of like the guy named Jack Pfeffer, and he became almost the poster child for all the ills of the wrestling business. But I think I keep saying, I hate to sound like I'm just sort of like some embittered old veteran who's taking shots at the geniuses in Connecticut, because I'm really not trying to do that. Any criticism I think should strive to be constructive, and I think if for nobody else than the fans, you need to start re-examining what this is, and ultimately you need to be able to define what your objectives are, and all this other, and I hate to say it, I have doubts that anyone in there has any clear, definitive, answer. If I said, what are you actually seeking to accomplish, or what is the image or direction you're trying to go, or whatever. And more often than not, if they gave me a rational answer, it would be contradicted by whatever I saw on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown the next week, because they'll have one step forward and 3 steps backward. They'll go to great lengths to have some match like, say, Randy Orton and Kevin Owen have a pretty good match, and then they'll bring the Miz out, or the Divas, or Hornswoggle, or one of the Brand X tag teams, with masks and whatever the hell else. But so I always see this sort of 1 step forward, 2 steps backward kind of being inflicted on me on a regular basis on anytime I watch, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be and as I said before, it's probably reflective of there's too many cooks in the kitchen. And if it's not that, then the cook that is in the kitchen's got a severe case of schizophrenia or something, because there's too many things that totally contradict and negate each other.
There you go. John? Alfonso?
Yeah, we're here. And this is my last question. I mean, Bruce, if you think if you were, and I tried to ask the question before, I don't think I was able to do it. So if you were in Vince McMahon's shoes, I mean, do you think that he saw the numbers, and he saw the branding of what Hulkamania did, and he saw there was more to the entertainment side, and he saw the dollar bill signs? And it's hard, I'm sure it's hard for you to be able to answer because you're a wrestler, hardcore wrestler. I mean, do you think that you would have done the same thing?
Wrestling in itself, I know damn well, is and should be entertaining. So anyone who has this misconception that, we're compromising the entertainment by stressing the wrestling doesn't get it. If you're doing wrestling the right way, it's a very compelling form of entertainment, and you compromise the perceptible propriety of it when you, deviate into a bunch of crap. Like, say you had a serious movie, like maybe Schindler's List or something like that, I wouldn't be needing to see Pee Wee Herman cameos throughout that show or something like that in order to make it still entertaining. But, I see WWE, they'll have a serious match or a serious angle or whatever, and then they'll have the Divas come out and do something, or they'll have Hornswoggle, or they'll have the Miz come out and, they have a sewage truck come out and spray shit all over everyone or something like that.
So do you think, this is my question, do you think that everything changed when WWF officially said, you know what? We're going to officially announce it. Wrestling is fake. Do you think that's when everything changed and said, you know what, this has to be more based on entertainment? Because my audience knows that everything we're pushing is scripted. Is that when you think everything changed?
I think, it's cause and effect, as I was
Definitely
stating, if I didn't make that clear enough. But one of the reasons for the proliferation of irrelevant, irrational crap is they don't have that many guys, from my perspective, that actually can wrestle. There's, few and far between guys that I would put in the same league as some of the guys we were talking about before, like the Dynamite Kids and the Kurt Hennigs and the Owens and all like that. So because they have so few guys that actually can wrestle, then they have to overdose, the stuff that they're, with excessive talking and these, tits and ass and swerve finishes and, going through the timekeeper's table on every single show, not once or twice, but about 5 times, and all this other stuff that, isn't even wrestling, but it's mostly because, in my estimation, there's not that many guys that actually can wrestle. And the wrestlers are so desensitized, if they hear some clown in the audience going boring or whatever, they immediately shift into high spots, which is just kind of the tail wagging the dog type thing, which, is not the way it should be. But, complicating it, as you guys probably know, whenever I've been at the WWE, you got these poor referees, and they always have an earpiece on, and then somebody who's usually a eunuch in a whorehouse type, some, non-wrestling scriptwriter who maybe got on there because he was on the Days of Our Lives or something like that, is, funneling in, pick it up or high spot or keep moving or something like that, and so it's all these things that kind of are compromising, what wrestling should be. But I don't know. I hate to sound like I'm pissing on their parade or whatever the hell, but I think for the sake of the fans and for the for the business to regain some sense of what it was and what it can be, it needs to really re-examine those things. And I don't think it would be that hard for them to do that, but I think one of the first things you've got to do, though, is look at yourself in the mirror. And I don't think they want to acknowledge or admit or whatever that there's some serious overhaul needing to be undertaken if they're going to kind of reestablish themselves, or maybe sustain themselves into the next generation.
Absolutely.
I have some serious doubts about that. I would never be that stupid to say, well, the business isn't going to survive. As I said before, it's sort of like sport or entertainment version of a cockroach. It'll still somehow they're emerge, but it shouldn't be like that. It should be, in my estimation, it should be way bigger, way better, way better received. The foundation of it, the grassroots or whatever, should be, considerably better than what it is, and it's certainly not putting its best foot forward or, maximizing its potential. And if any of them tried to tell me or tell you that they were maximizing their potential, I would, for want of a better term, tell them they're full of shit.
And ultimately, time will tell whether or not, wrestling as a whole, definitely WWE survives the course, given how they're going right now. But Bruce, before we get ready to let you go, we wanted to do a little bit of a name association, if that's okay with you.
Oh, sure.
We got a few names, and just say what the first thing that comes to mind for the name. Is that all right?
Sure.
All right. Give me just 1 second. I had the list here. I'm sorry. All right. So first up, we have Bret Hart. Jim,
my brother.
Jim Neidhart.
My brother.
I knew you were going to say that.
I have a feeling I know where this one's going. Davey Boy Smith.
I think Bret's a great worker. He, I don't agree with everything he's done, but I think he's a great worker, and hopefully he'll be remembered as such.
Davey Boy Smith.
I think he was a pretty good worker, and sad to see what happened to him.
Dynamite Kid.
I'd say possibly the best worker of the modern generation, and one of a kind, and sad to see his demise, but way better than most people even realize.
Chris Jericho.
A great entertainer and a nice guy too. So.
Jushin Thunder Liger.
Another great worker and a very good person too. 2 thumbs up.
I'm going to switch up the order on these a little bit. Evan Ginsberg.
A brilliant sage in wrestling's answer to William Shakespeare.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love it.
That's very nice.
And Truman Capote here.
I could not touch Truman Capote as a writer, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I'm just saying.
Chris Benoit.
Who else?
Chris Benoit.
Chris Benoit.
Tragic, great worker. Sad to see what happened.
Just a few left. John Cena.
I've actually been more impressed with John in the last 6 months than I was in the last 10 years. He's actually made some strides, and I think he's doing his best. So I hope he continues going the direction he's going.
Hulk Hogan.
I sort of feel sorry for the poor Hulk. He's been kind of raked through the coals. I think unjustifiably. Actually a pretty damn good guy, and he, in his own way, carried that promotion on his shoulders. And I don't believe for a second he's a racist either, but I sort of feel sorry for the poor bastard. And he didn't do whatever the hell his kids and some of the other people around him, they're the ones who should be raked over the coals, not him. So I hope he rises above this, and I'm surprised that Benny and them aren't supporting him more. It's kind of shameful on their part.
Triple H.
I've always thought him to be not a bad guy. The few times that I met him, I don't know whether to attribute a lot of the stuff that I'm criticizing to him or whatever, but I think if he is the CEO or the COO or whatever, he needs to take the bull by the horns, and if he is orchestrating the stuff that has been going down, then he needs to be listening to your program and hearing some of the stuff that we're saying.
Vince McMahon.
It's an enigma, Vinny. I actually think he's a better person than people perceive him to be. He seems to be somehow or other has this propensity for submitting himself to even like what Brett did in Phoenix and all like that. But I think Vinny needs to either take the bull by the horns or maybe walk away from it, one or the other. I don't know. Just my detached perspective.
Seth Rollins.
I like Seth, and his cronies are all right. Dean Ambrose and all that bunch. But I think some of the things that he does don't seem to enhance his image, and I think he needs to get back to more wrestling too. In recent months or whatever, he seems to have got away from wrestling and deviated into gimmicks and catchphrases and crap. It should complement his wrestling, not be the main course.
And lastly, and those are always my favorite to do, Bruce Hart.
The brother of the exalted hitman,
And oh, God.
An enigma or some such thing, whatever you want to perceive me as.
All right, so since I asked about Evan, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this.
Yeah.
Bob Johnson.
Bob Johnson's a pretty damn good guy, pretty sincere, and he tries hard, and his heart's in the right place. So.
Awesome stuff, man. And I think Al had one more comment to make.
No, that's it. I mean, Bruce, I appreciate you being on the show, and I'm gonna call.
Too long. I hope I wasn't too long-winded or whatever.
As a wrestling fan, I mean, this is what I love to do, and your stories, they mean a lot to me, and I know they mean a lot to the people listening. I mean, not everybody has been in your shoes, and I'm so appreciative of having you on the show. And I know, Evan, I mean, any closing thoughts? I'm going to call you out, Evan. One name association. What do you associate Bruce with?
Bruce Hart. I used to see Bruce as a heel manager in an indie in Queens about 20 years ago. We had
Lou and
that's right.
Lou
and
Falcon
Caparis. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
we usually used to pronounce it slightly different than Falcon, I might add, but
okay, but
Caparis or something like that.
But I used to so enjoy watching Bruce as a heel manager and all his brilliant booking. Everybody throws out the word genius and brilliant to the point where they're keeping it, but Bruce really is a brilliant wrestling mind. I mean, he was born into this his whole life. He spent doing this, and I'm proud to call him a friend, and I hope we have lots of projects together down the road. We're working on various documentaries.
Yeah, I very much reciprocate. And I think it's people like you guys who are a vital and integral part of the hopefully the renaissance of the wrestling business. It's got to sort of start at the grassroots, and there's I'm happy to see an increasing number of people like you guys, and some of these other people that I've talked to, and you might be familiar with them, like the Sanctuary, John Trotsky, and some of these other people, and that's where it needs to almost start at the grassroots and verbalize and discuss and I think that's one of the main reasons I'm on here and why I'm babbling on as I am, because I still fervently believe the wrestling fans, deserve better. And
I feel your pain, Bruce. When I'm watching SummerSlam and Lesnar and Undertaker is an excellent match, and Rollins and Cena is an excellent match, and they ended it in a circus-like manner, it just kills it dead for me.
I'm glad you said that, because I would sound like an idiot if and I didn't say that. They were both very good matches up till, the finish, and then the finish was,
cartoonish.
Yeah, and it killed all the whatever they had done. I exactly felt the same way you were saying when I was watching it. I was going, geez, Brock and Taker, Taker especially was impressing me. Like they're doing some pretty damn good stuff, and same with Cena and Seth. Especially Cena. I was going, geez, they're actually raising the bar. And then the finish, and I'm going, here we go again, and it's like completely, obliterated whatever they had done in their match, which is too damn bad.
You should get New Japan World. It's $8 or $9 a month. They have 35 years of classic Japanese content, and it's treated for the most part like a sport, not like a circus. This Wrestle Kingdom earlier this year was far superior to anything WWE has done as a show in its entirety.
As you know, I had so many of the young Japanese guys over here that were just breaking in back in those days, and they were hugely influenced by a lot of the guys we sent over, like Dynamite and Davey and some of those guys, and they were always very, very receptive to advice and criticism. All those guys like Hossie and Liger and Hashimoto, and before that we had guys like Fujinami and some of them up here. And that was one of the things that they were all very, very eager to learn, and they were very respectful and thankful for advice. These days, if you give advice or constructive criticism to some of the superstars, and I use the term loosely, they're resentful and they're going like, what the hell does that idiot know? Or, they don't want to hear anything but, awesome or whatever from you. So, but I digress. But, I think I'm hopeful that Japan is. I've been sort of mixed emotions with Japan because they deviated quite a bit in the last decade or so, trying to copy WWE or whatever, the ECW or Onita or whatever, and the heart and soul of Japanese wrestling back in the day was always just the wrestling. Most of those guys, had a pretty solid, pseudo-legit background, and there wasn't that much gimmicks and extremism and stuff, and that was what kind of made it what it was. But hopefully they're returning back to their roots.
Hope so. But New Japan World is well worth the $8 and $9 a month. They have all the live shows, and Nakamura and Okada. Some of these guys are just, world class.
Yeah, I know my nephew Harry's been doing a bit of stuff over there. I hopefully he's doing all right. I thought he was misused and sort of underappreciated or pretty much wasted with WWE. So I hope he's fulfilling. He's got a fair bit of potential, and he's a pretty good-looking big kid. So I hope he does well over there.
There you go. I'll give it back to John and Alfonso for the wrap-up.
Okay, nice talking to you, Evan. And
thank you so much, Bruce. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to having you on Heartbeat Radio. Bob Johnson tells me I gather you might even be on with our upcoming guest, the enigmatic brother of Macho Man Randy Savage, Leaping Lanny. So
I love Lanny. Lanny's a good friend. Tell everybody how they can listen to Heartbeat Radio.
yeah, it's on Pro Wrestling Powerhouse. I believe that's the so I think we're usually on every Saturday evenings, and I think you can check into the archives. But we've actually had a number of, some pretty interesting shows with people like Terry Funk and Harley and Jody Hamilton, and we had a real good dialogue just a few days ago with the Masked Destroyer, Dick Beyer, and so I invite you guys all to check us out, and I'm certainly going to endeavor to have Evan and John and Alfonso and some of you guys on the show, and got some pretty interesting guests lined up in the next little while, including Harley and Larry Hennig and Lanny and a bunch of others. So Bob Johnson does a great job lining these guests up for me. So I'm looking forward to having you on there, Evan, and always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Definitely, and we'll put it up on social media. That way they can listen to your show, Bruce. And we would love to have you back on and talk some more wrestling. And
yeah, we've already
I appreciate it. It means so much to us.
Yeah, I apologize for going on as I do sometimes, but it sounds funny. I think we've only scratched the surface. There's so many things we can cover, I guess, in other shows, whether it's stuff like the Montreal thing or the Kansas City thing, or some of the the other wrestlers that came out of Stampede, or just perspectives on the business and past or present or whatever. So yeah, I'd be happy to hook up with you guys again anytime.
Definitely, man. We always got to leave them wanting more, for sure.
He just left me wanting more.
Okay, and give my best to Donald Trump and
yeah.
I wanted to mention it like an hour ago. I love it.
yeah. I'm
So really quick here before
we need him or whatever,
Yeah.
Really quick here before we let you go, Bruce. If you had a chance to vote for president, and your choices, no, and your choices were the two seemingly most idiotic picks. Donald Trump, or as what's been in the news the last few days, or at least on Facebook, because when I'm working or working on the show, that's my only means of news for a little while. Yeah, shoot me there. Donald Trump or Kanye West?
I think I'd probably be going with Caitlyn Jenner, or maybe.
That was an awesome response.
Maybe Hornswoggle, or maybe Jesse the Body might. He's actually maybe overqualified.
No, Jesse might be qualified.
Yeah, but
oh man.
But all right, Bruce. It was an awesome time talking to you, man. We look forward to, like Al said, look forward to hearing from you again really soon, man.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks very much, guys, and appreciate you guys keeping the flame burning.
Absolutely, man. Take it easy.
Okay, we'll do it again, and you guys take care. God bless.
Same to you, man. Take care.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Bruce.
All right, guys. That was wrestling legend and Hart family member Bruce Hart. Awesome interview. Got some very newsworthy stuff in there, including a major update on Tyson Kidd. The preceding broadcast was an MEM Network exclusive. If you missed a part or all of tonight's show, no problem. Head over to memnetwork.wix.com/home, and there's a complete archive for all of our shows. Also, you can catch an encore presentation Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern on vocnation.com. Main Event Madness Radio. Madness Unleashed. Have a good one, everybody. So long.